All right. Well, it looks like we're streaming healthy. Good evening, or good morning, good afternoon, whatever it is, wherever you are. For us, it's the late show again. Welcome to my stream. I am Trey Gallaher, and this is my art stream. For those of you that don't know me, I am an artist, illustrator, painter, concept designer, educator. You can check me out at treygallaher.com. You can check me out on Instagram at Trey Gallaher, Twitter, Facebook, Art by Trey Gallaher, all the Trey Gallahers. the madness that we call social media today. But nonetheless, welcome. Thanks for joining. Hope you're having a good day or night wherever you are. And kick back. I recommend that if you're a first-time listener, I don't do music here mostly for, proprietary or copyright related issues. So doesn't mean I'm not listening to my own, which means here's what I suggest. Put a little music on of your own in the background. Put something on that you like, something mellow, something that you want to, or if you're raging at the moment, put on some metal, whatever you got. That is up to each of you. I've got my Miles Davis going currently. So I'm kind of in a mellow, let's kick back and draw. Had a great weekend. The family and I got out a little bit this weekend, took a drive. It's a beautiful day here in San Francisco. Took a drive up the coast. Sun was out. It's gorgeous, and can't ask for much better. Almost felt normal-ish, except for masks, of course. But it was a beautiful day, and it was kind of chilling. We were very grateful to be able to get away a little bit. Did some gardening, so we had a good one. Hope you're having a good one, and let's draw a little. Maybe you're working on some work of your own. Maybe you're drawing something that you want to draw. If you just want to watch, whatever. If you're up late, maybe you're doing homework. If you're one of my students, get on that homework. But if you want to chat a little bit, you're welcome to throw down in the chat there. I do keep a little eye on it. Sometimes I may forget and draw and forget to look over, but I try to keep an eye on the chats, and you're welcome to kick in if you want. I'd love to hear from you. But let's spend some time together. All right? Let's have some fun and relax and do this thing we call art. This three-letter word that is so powerful. So I think tonight I was kind of thinking about what I would do. And I think what I want to do is I want to, if you've been following the stream, the last 3 or 4 episodes, I've been kind of working on a design for a character. And not really a lead character, although maybe, I suppose it could. But last time we designed sort of a creature design that this character would be in charge of. He's sort of a shepherd, trafficker, herder, whatever you want to call him. And he's sort of moving livestock, and we took a look at a couple ideas for that. But I also was thinking that this guy would probably have his own beast that he would ride. Something that he could take in the outback that would be able to handle the terrain better than, say, a vehicle, and would also be maybe kind of a friend or a companion. So I was thinking I might do something along the lines of what a horse might be in another galaxy, another place, another time. This is kind of sci-fi tip, so I'm thinking about something that could probably go at least as fast as our livestock, which we kind of took a look at last time, which maybe you remember, maybe you don't, but you can look back at episode 12. But something that would, and that wasn't super fast. I don't think those things could go fast. Sprinters maybe, but not long distance fast. So this thing would need to be able to gallop go for a distance. So I don't have really any idea. I haven't come to this with any preconceived notions at all, except that this thing would be somewhat more friendly looking, be able to cover great distances with somebody riding on its back, and thinking like, what would a horse, another version of a horse in another time in another place. So I am going to just sketch, just whatever's coming to mind. If I start to feel something, I'll go with it. Tonight I'm just working on some regular paper, just some of my basic sketching paper, which I like, I think this is my recycled paper, so I don't feel like it's too precious. I'm just having fun with some ideas. I'll sketch a little first, maybe I'll switch over to some markers if that's feeling right, but I think for the moment I just want to kind of draw some shapes and see what I can come up with here. Tonight it's coffee. I didn't get my good coffee today, so I know it's late to be drinking coffee, but 1 cup. And I'm actually been nursing it. Okay. Thinking if we were to start with something thinking about horses. Just working with just a general layout pencil. This one's made by Generals. I like it. It has a lot of tooth to it. It's almost like it's graphite, but it almost has a little bit of the feel of like charcoal. So I'm just gonna kind of sketch and see what comes in here. See if I find any shapes that I like. I like the idea of maybe these kind of tusks here. This thing can do speed if it needs to, but it's strong enough to carry a human, so that's going to tell us a little bit. Kind of just looking at body shapes here. Maybe like somewhere between something kind of dog-like, kind of horse-like. A little bit about shoulders, quadruped. It's got a little height off the ground. Kind of give myself a little bit of the bone structure first. Staying loose. This would probably have his legs seem a little thin for a beast with a neck this big. The neck sort of proportioned to the legs, although I guess horses. This maybe has a little bigger head on it. Hooved animal? No, I'm thinking not. Our last one was a hooved animal, so this animal is some sort of semi-domesticated. Come back a little bit on that leg. Is it almost a little bit of a cat-like quality? It's kind of interesting. The back just a little bit. A bit of the shoulder blades kind of coming through. Let's try another one. I like that head though. It's like got a little bit of a cat-like nose. Ears kind of forward a little bit like a cat maybe. Low set mouth. And then maybe these sort of forward tusks. I like that. That's kind of weird, but I like that. Maybe something a little bit of a snout on it. Interesting. Or maybe that's just some sort of I like the ears forward. That's a little too horse-like. Let's square that off a little bit more. That's kind of interesting. I don't think I'm getting that head just right yet, but that's okay. Keep working on it. Let's go up a little bit on that knee. Seems like the leg might have to be a little lower than that. It's got elements of everything in it here. A little bit of a cat, a little bit of a dog. So it'd be kind of on its toes. If you're just joining us, thanks for swinging by. Doing I guess you'd call it a creature, but it's really kind of more of a service animal for a character design that I'm working on the last couple episodes. So we're looking at something that could be kind of used as sort of like a horse, what the purpose of a horse would serve, but somewhere else in the galaxy, different species. So it does similar tasks. It can herd, it can protect, it can be a friend, it can be a companion. Play around a little bit with the key here is to try as many things that come to mind as possible. Don't stop yourself. I like the idea of this kind of smoother, kind of cat-like shape. Makes it a little more sporty, I guess. It's a little bit more rounder. Got to keep our jaw in front of the ear. It's kind of part hound. It's kind of a front end. I like the idea that maybe it has a little bit like a ridge along its back. If he were to ride this thing, maybe it would have I think in favor of a huge animal. I think somewhere maybe to mid to large size, but with the ability to maybe run fast. So it's not huge. But the idea that if we were to put some sort of saddle here, we'd have to be looking at something. You get into trouble if you just take some animals and scale them up. They don't quite work the same way. The physics of it would tell us that proportionally, as we go up in size, that the strength to weight ratio becomes a little bit less. So you need a little bit more of a solid bottom. But I don't think we're going to go that big. I still think we're sort of in between somewhere like maybe a dog, a big cat ish, but not quite the size of a horse. That's at least what I'm sort of thinking here. If we had to put a person next to this, in fact, maybe even eye to eye. This were a relatively tall person, I guess. So just for scale, a little suggestion of how tall this creature might be. Like a horse would probably stand a lot taller than this. But it has to be robust enough to carry a human and not get weighed down too much. So we might have to think about that some more. See if we can work on that head a little bit here. So kind of squared off in the front. This kind of slope. Cats generally have a little shorter snout. And compared to a horse, this thing will definitely be shorter than that. Hope you're doing well. Getting your work done. If you're with me on West Coast time, it's Sunday night. You guys doing good? I think for some of this detail work, I'm going to switch over to something a little finer. So let's say it comes back. Does it have a little bit of a muzzle on it? Whiskers, maybe? So we got that jaw gonna come back here. So underneath here, that will probably be lower jaw. Just thinking in my head here, like, what would those sort of jaw bones look like inside there? This flat piece is a little bit more dog-like. If it's rounder, then it's a little more cat-like. It's gonna have a little bit of this pointed nose. Maybe that jaw can come in even more. Ears coming a little bit forward. I kind of like that too. I like this kind of arching piece, which kind of seems like that might give things a little bit I like that. A little bit down on the neck, so we give that head just a little bit of a crown, but then maybe it comes down and the neck arches like that. That's kind of neat. Huh. I like that. Very smooth. Almost like a snake-like. Almost like it's one continuous piece. Huh. All right. Now we were talking about those tusks, maybe. So they're not teeth. They'd come probably out of the bone structure somehow underneath. Maybe they were sort of for fighting. I like that. Okay, that's good. Like this. That's sort of taking it and smoothing it out a little bit. It's got a little elements of a couple things in it. Kind of dog, little cat. Why not, right? Just having fun here. Does it have hair? Does it have a mane? Maybe it kind of starts here in it. It's got a little bit of a mane. I like that. I like that a lot. Okay, what else could we explore here? Maybe we could work on like a front look. So probably a little bit narrower of a skull from the front. Curved. Sort of eye sockets. A little bit of sort of intake nasal passages. Ultimately covered up by a nose of sorts. So it's got sort of an eyeball sitting in here. Just making it up as we go. Looks a little bit like a llama. So I'm picturing the mouth kind of comes more back rather than up. Maybe more back. And that chin sort of, so it's a question of how far out does those jowls stick out. And then of course we've got our sort of tusks on the side. So let's come back a little bit. So the tusks sort of maybe grow. Which this probably means, you know, we're going to see some sort of, those tusks have to come out of the skull, so probably a little bit of some ridges here where that bone sort of protrudes out. It's almost like it starts on the inside and curves its way out. Something like that. We come in with the eye, side of the face. The orbitals, and then of course we're looking at ears that are really pitching forward with more triangular, really triangular. I like that. That's kind of a cool look to it. So the jaws sort of here. You know, horses have those really big jowls. I don't know if we have jowls that big or not. A little more rounded, a little softer. I like that. Can we see it in there? So sort of nostrils. It's got a little kangaroo to it. A little roo. This is where it's fun, people. This is where we're having the grandest time. Which I don't know if it is for you guys watching. Is it fun? Maybe you're doing your work of your own. But this is where you're kind of discovering as you go, right? Things happen. You see things. You run with it. Okay, I like this. Not bad. So I'll refer to that, come back to that again. So this would be sort of our front view. Okay. So that helps. That answers a lot. God, that's amazing. That looks a lot like a kind of kangaroo, doesn't it? So nostrils sort of here. I think I could lighten up a little bit. Oop. Where'd you go? cut back a little bit on this shape. So our sort of nostrils are here. They flare, kind of come to the back. We got a little bit of this split. That part looks like those big, kind of big lip, which I don't know that it looked that big up here, but let's make some little notes. So we'll say sort of short snout. We got tusks. Ears forward. Sort of basic shape. Love this arch. I like that. Makes me think of like Egyptian snakes, cats, that kind of thing. All right, so size of a human. If I had to draw this human again, I think this might be a little tall. So let's rescale that. Just for the reference. I'm going to work some more on this body, specifically on the back end. But let's say that's almost even, so that's not good. Let's say a little smaller. Say somewhere in this range. That feels better. Feet not so big. Okay. That's a little better. And I do like this kind of cat-like tail, by the way. Thinner tail, for sure. Okay. So we kind of got the scale worked out. We have some sense of the face and the head and the front view. Seems like a big saddle. Something a little sportier. This is the future. And as much as I'm liking this mane, I really like the smooth look of this because it just looks more aerodynamic. Like this thing would be faster, more agile, like a cat. Okay, I'm not going to do much more with these. I'm just kind of adjusting proportions a little bit. I'll do better on the next one. This is just an initial break in here, so I'm not going to sweat it too much. So digitigrade. So meaning it walks on toes. Anything unusual about that toe, maybe? We could do a little bit of the foot. We could do a little detail work here. So maybe it's got some sort of claw. Which means that its pad, its heel pad, is back a little bit. In this case, I'm coming a little flatter with it. Which means these are your toes. And the toes being the phalanges, and these would be like, I guess, metatarsals. Be your sort of tarsal bones. I think ALS, tarsals. Which means that really this is the heel, if you will, the ankle. Which makes this more of the knee. All pretty standard stuff for quadrupeds. Which means this is sort of like your gastrocnemius here. Tibialis. And the bones in here makes this more of like the hip, or since this is the front foot, we'd be thinking about this as like the shoulder. It's more the shoulder and the scapula sort of run back under here. So scapula, shoulder, knee. Since we're talking, I guess I should, elbow, since we're talking front to back. Now, which means you got sort of the bicep muscles in here. Triceps. Don't need to go into that much detail, but pectoralis. Some sense of ribs, I guess. Not that we need to see the ribs that much. Okay, we'll flesh this part out on the next one. But at least we're kind of paying attention to how the toe works. Thinking something a little more square-like on the toe. It's kind of knobby looking or something. You know, sometimes this way of drawing is sort of like working out, letting the detail be the sum, letting the answer be the sum of all the parts. If you're kind of working a little bit on the parts, it will help answer some things later on. One thing I'm always telling my students is get drawing. Don't think of the idea, draw and think. Sometimes you'll discover things as you this would be sort of like the toes. This is a little rounder. I kind of like this slightly more squared. Okay. Let's go page 2. Take a little break for a second. How's your work coming? You guys are quiet out there tonight. Okay. Where were we? Let's work on this body shape a little bit more. See if we can get this right. A couple more of these. So I'm sort of keeping an eye on it up here and paying attention to some of my notes. Continuing to try again a little bit. So I really liked that kind of cat head. It's a little bit of a jaw's going to come up here. So the ears just sort of start there. Kind of pointing forward a little bit. Again, kind of paying attention to sort of the skull shape, a little bit of those eyes. But now we're kind of looking at this curvature, that arc that we were talking about here. Gives that feeling of that powerful neck. Gradually getting a little bit wider as we come down. Whoa, that is so snake-like. Do I like that? I don't know. Interesting. That is weird. Isn't that weird? Look at that shape. Woo! So we're talking about a rib cage. Probably someplace back in here. Interesting. Okay. Now, I don't know all of my legend creatures by heart or anything, so I don't really have anything in mind that I'm taking from. I'm just looking at features that I like at this point as I hit them. But I'm not after anything specific, except that when I see something that's working, this part is like a horse. So I think we're kind of looking at it. Too tall, too tall. Bring it back, bring it back. This seems right. Maybe a little thicker. That's kind of cool. That feels right. So sometimes, you know, sketching over the top, erase it, knock it back. Then that gives you a little bit of a guide to work with. Kind of like this. So our bones would sort of be kicking back something like this. This belly's a little low. Maybe a little thinner in the neck. Not so stocky. That seems a little better. I like the curvature of that neck. Okay, let's kind of block in some. So we're talking about a hip kind of this would be your femur. Back a little farther. Seems a little fat. It's COVID cat. So again, I'm kind of etching my proportions here. Just drawn as I'm going, drawn as it feels right. Maybe more powerful hind legs. Sprinting. Also proportionally looking at, kind of looking at the hips. That's getting a little better. We're finding it. I think I got too much bend in here. So the femur's sort of cutting through here, which makes our knee sort of a little bit higher. Not so high. You know, it's amazing, these proportions. Like, you adjust them just a little bit and it becomes like a different animal. You see different things. If it's higher, it becomes a horse, or if it's lower, it feels more like a cat. A little higher on that belly. Hope you're having a good evening. Hope the work's coming along okay. If you're just chilling, hope you're relaxing and having a good evening. Feels like maybe we could come a little wider here. So it's kind of running down through here. So the scapula. So we're sort of coming up to a little more of a curve. And then we got the tail. Let's bring that guy out a little bit. All right. Let's do a little cleanup on this guy. Let's go in for a tough stuff. Okay. A little bit of cleanup here. So we made some of these adjustments as we go. I like these proportions though. This headpiece is looking really good. You know, again, some of these things you kind of find as they seem right. Feels pretty good though, I have to say. I think we've got it at least enough to where we can kind of get the feel for it. It's a good profile view. I like to start a lot of my creatures, I like to start profile view, especially if I'm kind of working off something that we're kind of familiar with, because it's the adjustments of those proportions, and there's really no better way to get proportions than to do it from the side view. So this is where you can kind of tweak those proportions a little bit and see the difference. Sometimes you draw it, you know, 3/4 view or an action or something like that. That's really hard to do. It's really hard to create something brand new that doesn't exist and get it in proportion correctly so that you could describe it to somebody else. You might hit it in one particular drawing, but if you had to draw it again, you need something that helps explain those kinds of proportions and details, and profile is a really great way to see it. Plus, you really get to see a lot of its curves and sort of uniqueness. Okay. So I think we kind of have something to work with here. So now, come back in with a little detail. Take it a little slower. Start putting in some details. Could be a suggestion of overlaps. I like this little overlap here of the front shoulder. It's a little bit kind of square here. We also have this overlap. By the way, this is drawing for design, so I'm making notes to myself. So again, this is kind of the knee. These are the hamstrings along the back, which would mean that these are sort of your quad groups in here. I don't want to overdo kind of flat here, kind of flat here too. So I think that's sort of an important, this is sort of the edge of the hip. And then our tail, which sort of is a continuation of that spinal column, which would be sort of running down here, one sort of continuous curve. Now what's interesting is that the hip itself is kind of curving a little bit, but then we're breaking out and kind of continuing that curve with the tail. So visually it continues, but the hip itself is actually kind of cutting in a little bit. And then maybe there's even a little kind of overlap. There's the back of the scapula. And then I guess, you know, maybe the spinal column is sort of moving through here. So maybe there's sort of a little, it could be a little bit of a ridge. Which means our saddle's going to fit nicely right in here. Kind of echoing a little bit of the sleek lines. If I had to guess, some sort of saddle would go on there. It's a little more then we'd sort of have the horn here. And then maybe a little support bucket. Depending on how big the human is here. So let's say maybe we draw the human on here. Which means the pelvic region is sort of fitting in there. And the legs sort of slightly pitched forward. And let's say they were going for speed. The human is sort of here. So let's say the human's torso is somewhere in here. So maybe this saddle comes in a little more. So let's say the human's kind of leaning forward a little bit, which would probably mean that the human's legs are going to kind of come forward here. Back here. Now I'm into the acid jazz. My playlist is rolled over into some what are we drawing at this hour? We are drawing a working sci-fi creature that someone would use sort of like a horse. So this is not a horse, but for a sci-fi character that we've been working on in episodes previous to this, this is going to be the creature that this character would ride. That puts a little context to it. So if you're joining us late, we did a little sketching here in the first half. We were playing around with the basic shapes, looking at some skull shapes, things that we liked, proportions, a couple different views, just trying to find the proportions right. So now we're doing a second pass with a little bit more refining going on here, picking up again some of the things that we liked earlier and fleshing them out. What are you up to, little shy Foxy Chew? What are you drawing tonight? You drawing with us? All right, so let's see. Let's assume that the arm is sort of maybe here, and maybe the person's sort of got their hand extended out forward here. So I don't know. Maybe they're riding the leash low. They're holding the leash kind of tight here. But I kind of like this idea that they're leaning forward a little bit. This might even be giving them a little, making them proportionally a little too long. Oh, been drawing all day? That's awesome. I love a day of drawing. What kind of stuff do you like to draw? Okay, so I'm still doing just more or less a profile view here, so I don't want to get too hung up on drawing the human yet too much, but just kind of blocking in a, just for proportion. The human scale is sort of what will really help us understand what we're looking at here. Is this another person I know who likes foxes, by any chance? Foxy Chew? That's awesome. Okay, so what this is telling me, though, is perhaps I could come up a little bit on this seat. And maybe I don't need to go so far back. Is this a certain person that might be in one of my classes? Are we with friends tonight? All right. It's okay. Your secret is safe with me. So a little bit of this dip tail. It's funny, this little thing is sort of unique to cheetahs and lions, so there's a little bit of that in there. All right. Well, this is pretty good. I am liking the look. It's very leaning on the cat aspect, which I like. I like the kind of sleek quality that we're getting here in some of these lines. Definitely some cat-like features. I wouldn't call it a cat, but it's definitely got some cat-like qualities. Okay, so one of the things we were drawing in the last was the tusks. Which I would assume kind of come out of the skull here a little bit. So a little bit of reinforcement. Kind of taper down. So let's see. Saddle sort of come down here. Probably a strap that has to go underneath, right? probably hanging down from the lower part of our saddle. Usually in a saddle they would do some sort of blanket or something underneath first, sort of protect the animal, then we do the saddle. And then sort of hanging down from there, we also have our stirrups. Kind of fit the foot in. Got a good shape going there here, though. I like this. So again, we're talking about the sort of flat direction here is giving us an indication that that hip is underneath there. Oh, well, welcome. Palotron. Killer name. Digging it, dude. Or dudette. Or dudee. Thanks for coming by, you guys. So, a few muscle groups. So, let's see. We were talking a little bit about maybe indicating over here, we were talking a little bit about suggestion of ribs. Again, that doesn't necessarily make them very strong looking, but usually we're going to get some sort of the end of the rib cage, thoracic sort of arch, and then the beginning of the belly. So maybe a suggestion of a rib or two. Let's assume that a person that would probably ride this would be wearing some sort of appropriate attire, some sort of boots. So this is our elbow, so that means that our sort of biceps are running down in here. Oh, well, thanks. Foxy Chew, are you out? Are you new out here streaming or watching Twitch, or just new to my channel? Palotron, what are you up to, man? Ha ha! Palotron. We go back, don't we, brother? Well, welcome, Foxy Chew. Come back anytime. Nice. What you working on, Palotron? Change my angle here a little bit. Bo Jackson. That is completely random and awesome at the same time. I love that. Bo Jackson. Because why not? Bo Jackson was awesome. The guy that could do it all. Are you doing commissions, Palotron? Kind of the same. Hey, thank you. You know, most of that stuff in the top corner there, Foxy Chew, is just like Instagram, which is kind of just a place where I'm drawing and messing around and stuff out of the sketchbook. Occasionally I'll put in something a little more finished there, but you know, the Instagram is sort of a good practice of just making yourself get off your lazy butt every day and keep a good habit, right? Palotron, I love watching your family photos. You have the best family photos. Nothing wrong with that, man. Paying the bills with your skills. All right, so let's think about this writer for a second. So this is my guy. By the way, for those of you joining on the later side, this was inspired by a character that I've been kind of working on in stream here for the last couple sessions, since I think like 8, 9, 10, 11, been working with on this theme of this character. This creature is going to be the creature that this character might ride. Now this character is sort of a trafficker, a shepherd of livestock or creatures. So he needs to ride a creature to sort of keep up with the creatures. So I guess if you took your basic cattleman, kind of herding cattle and or some form of livestock and transporting them and moving them and riding your best companion, you have to have another creature that can keep up. So this is the sort of sci-fi horse of this remote part of the galaxy. All right. I think next time I might go back to more of the design on the character. This has been sort of a series of streams connected to the same running off the same basic theme, but doing different parts of the theme. So tonight that's why we're doing this. This is the character's horse, I guess, if you will. Too cat-like? Maybe. Maybe. Sternomastoids kind of running down here. Some vertebra. Okay. Bo Jackson. You working big, Palotron? Great, Foxy Chew. I'll be here for a little bit longer. How the rest of you doing out there? See, we got a couple others. You guys doing good? So this is sort of little details now. Whew. We are getting to the wee hours. And work does call tomorrow. So I got a little bit left. I think I got about 15 more minutes. So I'm putting a little bit of the shape of the character I've been working on for this. Not to get into too much detail, but man, I have got the sleepy jazz going now. That's good. Those quick commissions, keep them small. Turn and burn. Probably, I think he had that staff too, so I think the staff probably goes some sort of holder here on the side of the. Probably mean it would do something. The shape of the staff we looked at was something like this. Might be a little longer though. Thanks, man. I hope Bo Jackson's looking fierce too. Are you doing a batting stance? Or are you doing a fielding stance? Or are you doing a football stance? Okay. So while this guy's probably writing here, maybe I could do another person standing over here for height. Beep. I'm assuming if this person got off the cat, maybe there'd be sort of another. Just for scale. What are you listening to, Palotron? By the way, I usually encourage people to listen to their own stuff. Keep me on for the visual. So that staff we were talking about. Pelotron, you talked to any of the old gang? It's been a while now. Snoop! I love me some Snoop. A dog pound? Emphasis on the guns. The Bo Jackson guns. Dude was big. He could pull that ball. I don't think I ever saw him play in No, that's not true. I think I did catch him one time visiting Kansas City Royals. Right? Who did he end up with? Did he end up with the Royals the whole time? He got hurt, I think, right? So this character, which you'll see, kind of has, if you go back and look at, starting with episode 8, he wears this kind of centurion helmet, a little bit like a Roman soldier, but a little more man-made. I guess a little more, not man-made, that's not the right word. A little more rustic, I guess. Oh, White Sox. Okay, afterwards. Okay. I just remember he made his big debut with the Royals. But yeah, I kind of lost track of him there. All right, so this gives us a sense of the scale. And I guess, maybe a smaller horse. Maybe a smaller horse. I feel like a horse would be somewhat larger, like have slightly bigger chest, bigger head, of course. Different kind of, obviously a undulagrade with hooves. But this is a digitigrade, so we're kind of looking at something that walks on toes. But there's a little bit of a kind of horse structure in here too. Ooh, maybe this jaw needs to come up a little bit more. I like that. I just saw that. Kind of pops the mouth out a little bit more. And maybe sort of there's a little bit of this sort of vertebra. Maybe there is a little bit of mane, but they braided or something. Okay. All right. I kind of like this. I think I am getting near the end of this jam. It's getting late in my time and my space. So, cat-like, right? Proportions were a little goofier here. That's okay. This was the first break in. But we got that head shape, so that was good. We got the tusks. The tusks have got to come a little bit more at an angle. We talked about squaring the feet off a bit more. So a little bit of an idea of this front view, although this is pretty narrow looking, so I think maybe it needs to have a little wider muzzle. On that head. Since we have a pretty good profile there, I'm going to do a little bit more of the front view. Welcome back, Foxy Chew. I've only got a couple more minutes left in me. Got a day tomorrow, so I got to be up. But us art dads, of which I'm pretty sure Palotron is, we got to get it done in the wee hours. Sort of that buckle underneath goes around. So I think what I'll do next time is I am going to leave this as sort of my break-in design rough, which is what I would sort of call this. It's giving me proportional information, basic design, strong silhouette, and give me a chance to do some more maybe gestural drawings, come up with a cool pose But really what I'm after at this point is more the character that I'm designing. So this is support. This is extra. This is rounding out the story of the character that I'm designing. Actually, last time and this time when we were doing the livestock design too, episode 12, the last one, these creatures that are around this guy are sort of also telling us a lot about how his armor sort of will affect or let me put it this way, how his armor design and the clothing that he's wearing is sort of defined by his job, his occupation. So if these things have an intelligent design and have purpose, and we know what that purpose is, then that makes more sense in the design. So while this is kind of a fun creature to play with, and I do like what I'm getting here, I think this is kind of fun, that really this is about going back to the design of the character. These are the creatures and characters that are in his world or her world and are part of the job, and therefore help us to design the character. If we know what the character needs, we know what the character does. Wondering if there'd be little whiskers. Might make it too cat-like. I like writing this edge of not being 100% cat, dog, horse, but fast. That's the main thing. So again, like if we know what they do, what kind of horse or creature they ride, what's kind of creature that they are, that's part of their occupation, then we kind of know what their outfit has to look like. And that's really what these sort of ancillary designs that I'm doing for this are really kind of coming back to building out the world that this guy lives and works. All right. I think that's going to be about it. I have to come up with a good name for this thing. I have to sleep on that one. I have to maybe look at some of the naming conventions for cats, horses, etc. Thanks, Palotron. That's awesome. No kidding, man. Keep up with the good work. I'm glad to see you're still working on your stuff. Yeah, thanks for coming by, guys. Thanks, Foxy Chew. I hope to see you out here again, too. Maybe some of you folks, too, that were a little bit on the quiet side. That's okay. I get it. You got work to do. But it's also nice to talk to you guys. So next time, feel free to chime in. I think this is going to do it for us tonight. Yeah. This was a good evolution. I like the way that this works. I think next time I get back to this character, what I will do is maybe throw over a sheet of vellum or marker paper and do a cleanup ink drawing, maybe some markers for value or a little bit of light and shadow to give it a little bit dimension. But this one I'm just going to keep as sort of a cleaned up rough, and I really would kind of keep this as a rough, because this is sort of just evolving ideas from preliminary stuff that's in your head, and I had nothing coming in tonight except just an idea of what it needed to do, and one thing leads to the next, and hey, got something kind of fun. So I hope that your week goes well. Thanks for coming by. I'm usually out here Saturday nights, or sometimes Sunday morning, or sometimes Sunday night. I've been having trouble being consistent lately. Just, again, us art dads. Weekends can be a question mark. So, but I try to get out here once a week. So I generally send a post out on Facebook. So if you're a Facebook follower of Art by Trey Gallaher on Facebook, I usually send out an alert that I'm going live. So if you have your window open, then you can see I'll be going live. I do have a Discord channel, and I really need to start doing more with that in terms of letting people know when I'm going to go live, like a schedule. That's the best place to sort of post a schedule. So I just haven't really gotten to it. So for now, it's mostly, if you're following me on Facebook, Art by Trey Gallaher, then I'll send out a flyer there. Or if you're a friend of mine on Facebook, then I usually make an announcement and then go live. So that's the best way to catch me. I don't know if that's how you guys caught me tonight. Good. Bring that pens and pencils and paper. I do digital sessions here too. Last two have been digital. But this time I wanted to go back to some paper, because the last creature we did last time was digital. So this time I want to come back to paper. But yeah, so follow me on Instagram. Check me out on Art by Trey Gallaher on Facebook. And then you can find out when I'm going live. And if you want to subscribe to my Discord channel, you can. I think if you look at my main Twitch page there at the bottom, you can see I have a link to my Discord channel. It's not getting much use, but if you're interested, I'm thinking about posting my schedules there soon. Otherwise, Saturday nights, Sunday morning, Sunday night, one of those three. Have a great week. I hope all of your creative projects go well. Keep drawing every day. Not so much that it's about great drawings, but it's about taking what's up here and putting it out on that paper and getting it down so that people can see and that you can see. And sometimes when we just start drawing, it leads to something, right? And that's the beauty, is that 2 hours ago I had no idea. Now I've got something. I've got an idea. Have a good week. Be good to each other. Be good to yourself. And I'll see you next time. Take care, guys.